It was the Great Sphinxes
4366487435546689910112123167567891011212316755672555675464755672556754645
birthday, so they celebrated by landing of man on the Eris dwarf planet. When they did it, the closest any other place had gotten to Eris was the planet Mars, achieved by the United States of America. But the Sphinx was flying in human form to get the man to Eris. So do not mess with the Great Sphinx, the most powerful being in the 68867754444465368777653776776537852687985268796666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666 So when the largest empire in history, the Great Egyptian Order, joined forces with Austria to reform the Austro-Hungarian Empire by hunger annihilating Romania, Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Ukraine, and Poland. Then Austria killed the rest of the territories. They did the same thing with Japan to the Japanese Empire, Turkey to the Ottoman Empire, Lithuania to Lithuania, Mongolia to the Mongol Empire, Sweden to the Swedish Empire, and Germany to the German Empire. Then they formed a new alliance called the New Western Empires. Years then passed when suddenly the Egyptian Empire and its allies expanded. So they controlled a lot of territory, which gave them power. Then humanity was so advanced, every region of a country owned an entire galaxy. Now was time for the ultimate war, which of course shall be WW4. The countries involved in this war were the Great Egyptian Empire, the USA, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Mongol Empire, the Swedish Empire, Lithuania, the Ottoman Empire, the Japanese Empire, Britain, the rest of NATO, France, and the German Empire on one side, and Russia, China, North Korea, Kazakhstan, Belarus and Italy on the other. Rome was quickly seized and Italy capitulated, and the same events happened with Belarus. Kazakhstan stole nuclear bombs from Russia, but they failed and blew up Kazakhstan's capital city, which made Kazakhstan capitulate. Russia and China had to get revenge, so they attempted to nuke the Great Egyptian Empire, which failed and hit the Indian Ocean. Even so, it missed. The Great Egyptian Empire was furious and blew the other countries they were fighting against to tiny little bloody shreds of skin, organs, and bones. The Great WW4 that 370 million fell to was finally over. And the peace treaty. The Great Egyptian Empire gained Sicily, all of North Korea, land in China and Russia, and $200 billion USD. But after WW4, life in the Great Egyptian Empire was extremely rough. The country was poverty-stricken and life felt like it was at the ages of the pyramids of Giza being built, even though it was the most advanced it had been in all its history, and the murder rate was growing very quickly. The Great Revolution of 2034 was going to begin, which was the hardest time of all of Egypt's history, from the Upper and Lower Egypts, to Cleopatra, to the World Wars, to what is happening now. THEEGYPIANSWEREANNIHILATED. The rest of the world was annihilated later, but then it collapsed. The world was sent back to its borders, before the rebellion. Egypt quickly invaded, united, and bought the Eastern Hemisphere, and the rest was split between the USA, Canada, Mexico, and Brazil. Years later, the Egyptian Empire had rebellions and only held on to northern Africa. Then South Africa came along and fought the Egyptians. It was definitely close, but Egypt won. Now Egypt controlled the majority of Africa, besides the southern tip. There was also once a small clover on a distant planet. You might think this plant had 2, 3, or maybe even 4 leaves, but no, it had about 30 leaves and gives an infinite amount of luck to whoever is holding it. There is only one of these in the entire universe. One day, thousands of years from now, in a very futuristic place in 8492, a mission to the edge of the universe was planned to happen tomorrow with 3 astronauts and a robot with a camera. This was the fastest and nicest spaceship ever created, even faster than the speed of light. But it still took about 7 months to get as far as they could, and they had to enter the backup ship, which was much, much smaller, but that meant it would need barely any fuel to go trillions of miles. This went about a little over 18 times faster than the main rocket ship, much faster than light, and then it went for about 9 months, and they finally reached their destination. The universe's edge. It looked like a big impassable glass wall that looked into an abyss with a few dots, other universes. The astronauts quickly wrote it down and the robot saved it. But then an asteroid struck and destroyed the ship. They were stranded. The robot sent a message back, but it would take more than a whole year to reach Earth. They luckily landed on a somewhat habitable and luscious planet where they found the mysterious clover from the start. They thought it must have been some strange plant on this planet, and they thought nothing of it. A few days after the crash, they went back to it as their last chance of any hope of their survival. One of the astronauts picked it up, and in less than a blink of an eye, pieces of a rocket started falling down in just the right place to form it. In just a minute or two, it formed the most powerful rocket ship imaginable. Hundreds of times the speed of light, infinite fuel, and strong enough to get through the universe's edge and into other universes. Most of all, it was the size of a very large modern mansion. They climbed aboard and went back to Earth in just a day, and then the Astronaut shared the stories, and the camera, which took hundreds of pictures a millisecond and had infinite storage, and robots' very large storage. The astronauts showed the plant to the president, and he showed it to the human civilization's most skilled and smart scientists. They extracted the very luck out of it and put it in a clone machine. But something went wrong, and the clone machine started to get bigger, and the door almost popped off from the machine. All but one scientist evacuated the lab, and the remaining scientist got trapped because the door got jammed and the cloning machine burst open with pure luck. Eventually, it was all contained, but the remaining scientist accidentally drank about 180 leaves, clovers worth of luck. Nobody knew what would happen to him, since he went unconscious. He woke up, but something strange happened to his body. He was incredibly large and could fly. Then he realized that he had turned into an all-powerful god. He then used his power to help humanity so much, by making them all gods, they never had to worry about any problems ever again. Well, besides for the threat of the scientist removing the powers, but he never did. After the extremely successful mission, Egypt colonized hundreds of thousands of universes fully, officially advancing Earth to a Type 7 civilization. This simulation would then be taken into the real world by the crew, where they combined everything from the simulation into one being, the Hyper-Sphinx, who would join them. They escaped and blew up the lab, and did the Macarena on top of the crater, before the ghost of Warren Harding attacked them, but he was turned into dust as the crew figured out that they were in the Solomon Islands, so they flew back all the way to Mexico. As they were doing this, GJB2TS would take them out of the pocket universe, and combine with Sir J. He then absorbed another 9999999999 multiverse, the rest of the crew, and the pocket universe. He explained that he was ready to fight his deodorant, so he combined everything they had into one being, Sir J++, who was now ready to fight. He reached his deodorant, and realized that his deodorant was still far too strong. But then, something strange happened. He was suddenly teleported to an office. He was greeted by Ryan Reynolds, who then had his body fold in on itself. He then saw the higher-ups of everything, who knew about his war against his deodorant. Because of this, they gave him a fraction of their power to help. They then forcefully hired him, and sent him back down throughout the multiverse. He, however, got sent of course, and landed in a faraway universe from where his deodorant was. He saw a strange black paper-like plant in the universe. Then, it looked behind at Sir J++, revealing it was not a plant. It then screamed its name, Jonald, before smiling with an insane look and pushing out a realistic arm with a weapon, and shooting. It bounced off of Sir J++, who then sent Jonald flying all the way from Mexico to Massachusetts. He then saw a man who introduced himself as Australian Batman, flying through the sky. He then sang his theme song, Australian Batman, flying through the sky, Australian Batman, gonna make you die, Australian Batman, he makes babies cry, Australian Batman, he has never told a lie. This confused Sir J++, so he left the universe.